Jennifer Olden from the EFT Lab. I'm an EFT supervisor in Sacramento, and today I'm going to be interviewing Kathryn Rheem. Kathryn Rheem is an EFT trainer. She does trainings all over the world. She wrote the first dissertation on withdrawal re-engagement, and she has a brand new training tape out on stage 2, which is awesome. So today we are going to be talking about shame and how to work with it. So I hope you enjoy. Check it out. So I wanted to talk to you about a subject that I get a lot of, not necessarily mixed messages, but a lot of different ideas.
Yes.
Right, and that subject is shame.
Oh, of course. Different ideas about shame and maybe how to work with shame.
Yes, in session. So I know shame is nearly universal, if not completely.
I would say, how could a mammal not have shame? I don't know. I would say universal, but that would just be my off the cuff response to that particular. I don't know how any mammal would be able to avoid shame. Because shame is a damage limitation strategy. We all need shame to keep ourselves from further exposure when exposure wasn't safe. Shame is a break. So the original...
So wait, I want to take in what you just said. Right. I want to take in what you just said. So shame, say this again, so that, if we've been hurt, in relationship, then shame is what keeps us from getting hurt again, being exposed to that pain again.
So shame,
because it's action tendencies to pull away.
To hide. So shame actually adaptive. Initially, before it becomes maladaptive. Shame, the essential function of shame is to act as a brake. That's from Alan Shore. We put the brake on our own behavior to inhibit ourselves in order to avoid further damage. That's why Gilbert called it a damage limitation strategy. And so shame is necessary to appease. When you're caught in a situation where you can't fight and protest, and you have to appease in order to survive, shame is that damage limitation strategy that forces you to appease and submit to keep yourself alive.
It's good.
It's good. And
on
that's
the front, at the front end.
That's right. It's initial need for humans. It's good to protect ourselves from further interpersonal exposure of rejection, which no human wants more of. And so ideally,
it's damage control. It's a way to stop the damage. It's a putting the brakes on. It's a stop, and it's adaptive.
It's adaptive,
and it's important that we all have that.
It's important that we all have that. The hard part about shame is it gets a bad rap. Because it's pernicious and it's stubborn, and if you take childhood shame that wasn't repaired. So ideally, when a parent or caregiver is abrupt or loud with a child, and the child ends up feeling ashamed, say as a mom, I yelled, "Stop doing that!" And I evoke shame in my kid. Ideally, I catch the shame and I go and I repair. That's what Ed Tronick says builds resilience.
That is good, unavoidable, and builds resilience.
But a lot of us didn't get that repair. And we just learned that some of us would even learn to blame ourselves to inhibit ourselves from risking more. Don't do that anymore. You shouldn't risk that way. You shouldn't run that fast. You shouldn't ask for this. So we would inhibit ourselves to avoid more interpersonal rejection and exposure because we didn't get the repair. And so ideally...
It becomes, this is probably the wrong word, but almost autoimmune, It's just attacking.
That's right. I like that frame, autoimmune, because what we also say about shame, especially for trauma survivors, is trauma survivors often believe the shame is them, that it feels part of their system. And what we often need to do in EFT is to help wedge in a little space between the person and their shame. Because the shame becomes maladaptive. It inhibits us relationally.
So so you're saying that my very identity as your client,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
is fused with feeling bad.
Yes.
And since shame, action tendency is to hide,
Yeah.
then I am hiding all the time
All the
on
time.
some level.
Even from myself.
Even from myself.
And especially from people who say they love me, but I don't trust that.
Oh,
Or I don't know if I can trust that.
I see.
Yeah. And so shame is, it's a resource. And that's what I often feel like clinicians.
Can we talk about, can I interrupt you?
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
So I'm loving that, and I'm thinking, okay, so like when the rubber meets the road, and
Yeah.
I'm wanting, because if you're my client and you have shame and it's pervasive,
Yeah.
it feels like a wall.
Mhm.
It feels like and I want to pep talk you. I want to say, oh, you're lovely. You're such a nice person,
Yes.
right? And that is, of course, a dead end,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's a dead end.
Yeah.
But you're saying you make space. So what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, because shame is a soup of primary and secondary emotion.
Okay.
And so I'll often go meta. Help me know when this shame grips you. I'll get their word for what happens on the inside.
Okay. Help me know when the shame grips you.
Yeah, and I often will lead to that. Like I naturally just said that now.
Yeah.
But maybe grip isn't the right metaphor or
Okay.
analogy for people.
Okay.
Maybe it never leaves them.
Okay.
Maybe it's like going through life in a swamp. You know, so I want to get what for them their shame feels
When you're
like.
knee deep in the swamp, when
Yes.
the shame grips you, whatever is
Yeah.
there.
How do you feel? Because shame isn't the end of the emotional processing.
Okay.
And so there's always primary emotion that comes when any mammal, any human gets caught by shame, which I believe we all have.
Okay.
And so I feel mad. Right, of course you feel mad that the shame, it won't leave you alone. Or I feel sad. Here we go again. I'm doomed. It must be me.
Okay. Okay.
And so I'll often expect secondary emotion, which makes perfect sense.
Right.
But if I don't get primary, I'll go in search of the primary emotion that happens when shame grips us, because it's so uncomfortable.
Okay.
I'm a good person, but why do I keep feeling ashamed of myself?
Yeah.
And so we actually want to get the primary emotion and work with the primary emotion. That's again what's so malleable about emotion.
Okay.
And work with that emotion. Like as an EFT clinician, what you might have heard in some of my trainings is I will say, I don't evoke shame. I don't use shame and evoke around it, because I know the action tendency is to hide.
Right.
And I know my clients are in shame,
Yeah.
but I want to work with the most primary of primary emotions. And shame is a big construct.
Right.
It's a big soup of stuff, and it's complex.
Yes.
And so I want to work as discreetly and as succinctly with primary emotion as possible.
Okay. So when you're saying I try to open up space between the identity and the shame,
Yeah.
is identity the word you'd use, or a view of self?
Yeah,
or
I wouldn't necessarily use identity, but I'm thinking about that. Like, is that relevant?
sense of self, or
Yeah, view of self. Oh,
view of self?
Often for those who've endured more than most, and of course the shame that results in not getting the repair. Those people who've endured more than most without repair often feel like the shame is them.
Right. Right. So it's view of self.
It is. I think it is view of self.
View of self, and it's shame.
Yeah, and the view of other as not safe.
Right.
Or not protective, or not, I must not be worthy of care because nobody responded to me.
Right.
They didn't come when I called.
Right.
Or when I told them what was happening to me, they didn't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say probably if we slow down and think about it, it would be both view of self and view of other, embedded in the shame.
Okay.
And so, but even without knowing exactly, thinking out loud here, that would be a lovely way to work with your clients around their shame.
Mm-hmm.
Help me know what you say to yourself about yourself. Help me know. And of course, as Brent Bradley says, our fears are located around view of self and view of other. And so you get somebody or get a client sharing their view of self and view of other with you, and their fears are going to naturally emerge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm always interested in working with people's fear.
Okay.
Fear, for me, from a general theory of love, arguably the most primary of the primary emotions.
Mm-hmm.
From an attachment perspective, and thinking about attachment as a theory of threat management, fear is a threat fear is the threat signaling system, the threat detection system.
Yeah.
How do we know we're under threat?
Yeah.
We feel scared.
Right.
I want to work with my own and my client's fear.
Okay.
Because unprocessed fear tweaks behavior.
Okay. Okay.
It changes our behavior.
Okay. So so if I'm understanding you,
Yeah.
right, it's
Yeah.
that this view of self becomes embedded in shame in some way, and view of other as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And you're saying, so we want to open up a little space right there.
Yeah.
Because we know that if shame is there,
Yeah.
there's fear there,
Yes.
there's sadness, there's
Yes.
anger.
Yes.
It's not just shame.
Right.
And so if someone is gripped by shame,
Or
right?
sunken with shame.
Sunken with shame, right? You can say, like, and the person says, yes, I'm sunken with shame.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can say, what is that like for you, or what does that feel like for you?
Yeah.
And then you can say, it's so sad that this is always with me.
That's right.
And then that way you're starting to pull in the layers.
That's right, the many
Right.
facets
The
of
many
it.
facets.
Shame can be defensive. Shame can become a dead end.
Yes.
Also, no emotion ever comes all by itself.
Oh, yes.
And so that's how I know there's always something there.
Okay.
Something else there.
Okay.
That's why our other word from earlier today, malleable, I've never used that word before
Yeah.
to describe emotion. But the more this conversation's unfolding, it's like, right, that's the malleableness of primary emotion.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I'm putting together something that Sue said, and from yesterday. I guess
Uh-huh.
she said it yesterday at the summit.
Yeah.
She said the compelling eyes of your beloved.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's an exact quote.
Yeah.
But that's the antidote.
Yeah.
Like that, a compelling love,
Yes,
that a compelling
that's right.
acceptance,
Right.
and the shame can be this wall,
Yeah,
right? A barrier.
Yeah.
And the fear, though, at least in my head, I don't know, you help me, can be an open door. Because if I'm
Yes,
afraid
that's right.
and my longings are there,
Yeah.
then your
We-
compelling eyes.
We can work till the cows come home
Yes.
with whatever fears and longings are there.
Yeah.
Yes, and so having compelling eyes, having
Yeah.
a partner's love
Right.
be there.
Right.
I mean, what we've also heard Sue say is partner's love is the best antidote to shame.
Right.
And we help partners say, you'll love me even when you see my broken places.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I'll love you more.
Yeah, there's a meme, so forgive me here, but there's a meme going around in very small EFT circles, it's not broadly sent, but it says something, and what does it say? It says something about our raw spots are not catastrophes in our soul, but cracks for our partner to pour their love in.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that
Our raw
lovely?
spots are not catastrophes, but cracks for our loved one to pour their love in.
Yes,
That's
it's
beautiful.
something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
that's
it just
great.
reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Just to remind our viewers that Kathryn, you have a training tape coming out, stage 2, and it's about 8 hours, almost 8 hours.
Yeah.
You can go to her website.
Washington Baltimore Center
okay.
for EFT or WBCEFT.com.
Okay.
Yeah, Washington Baltimore Center for EFT.com.
Okay, and you can find the link there.
Exactly. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.